Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
Good to be back, Sam.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
We got a hell of an episode to talk about today, but before we get to that, we also have a hell of a movie to talk about. This past weekend, we both watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Yeah.
I loved it, dude. Like 5 stars. It was so good. I loved it.
I also loved it. It was great. It's so interesting. I love how, like, I don't know if pliable is the right word, but like how I don't know, just how like you can adapt the turtles into doing and being like anything, you know? You can have them like the OG comics, they're kind of like ultra violent, very hardcore, grizzled. You can have I think like the last animated series they did, they have magical weapons and it's a little more like anime inspired. You can do weird CGI Michael Bay movies, or you can do this where they're just 4 anxiety-ridden teenagers in a crazy modern world with an overbearing dad who are just trying to find their place in the universe. You know?
It's crazy how many versions of the Turtles we have,
Yeah.
Like between the comics and all the different movies and shows. Is it because no one can get it right? Or because it's like what you're saying, there's so many different takes on it?
I think there's so many different takes on it, and I think what's really cool is that, like, I think there's a Ninja Turtles for every generation starting in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because like I know you like you're practically like OG with like the original like 80s cartoon. I came into it with like the movies, but then my Turtles series is from like the 2000s.
The cartoon?
Yeah. The cartoon that was in the 2000s.
I was old enough for the other ones, but like I didn't really watch the 80s cartoon. I've probably seen 1 or 2 episodes, but my introduction was really the movies, and then it was the live action show.
Oh, that's right.
That was kind of the big one because it was like Power Rangers. It was on after school.
I think they even did a crossover with Power Rangers.
I think so. It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one where they had the sister Venus. I'm like, okay, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, there is like a Turtles for every like generation. It's crazy. Wow. So the one you saw, that cartoon in the 2000s, is that the one with Sam Riegel?
Yep, that's Sam Riegel as Donatello.
Broadway's famous Sam Riegel, also known from Critical Role, our favorite D&D show, or one of our favorite D&D shows. That's crazy, right? It's like, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy because
full circle.
They did Critical Role did that like variety interview, where they're like asking questions and stuff. And
it's just like a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, and Sam Riegel said, it's like, yeah, like he voiced the Ninja Turtle. He was one of the Ninja Turtles. And I was like, wait a second, 20 years ago, was that mine? Did I watch that? And then I went back and I typed in YouTube Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2000s Donatello Sam Riegel ? And then it came up, and then it was a compilation of like all of Donnie's lines. And then like right out the gate, it's like, "Hi, I'm Donatello," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's Sam Riegel. I don't need to watch the rest of it." Yeah. You were my childhood. Holy crap.
That's funny, man. That's so cool.
And I think it's cool with what Mutant Mayhem did was like I think it's great that they got like actual like teenagers to voice the Turtles. Because that's like, that's part of the thing, and like this version is like teens for now, or I guess modern teens. yeah, and yeah, like I thought that was really cool, and I love just like all the rest of the cast,
Hmm.
that's in it. I'm like, it was so cool.
And if like what you say teens for now, it's like, yeah, because there's so many references to other things, other franchises, other properties. But like you could have easily done that wrong or cheesy, but because they're kids, like it makes sense. Like, oh, this is the stuff, and they're also like they're homeschooled kids essentially. They can't go out into the real world, so they're trapped in their house.
Yeah.
So all they know is pop culture, from
Hmm.
what they get from their phones and TV. So like it's so cool, like just how many like jokes and references they make, and it makes total sense. And there's a lot of it. I'm like, damn, what are they saying? What are they talking about? Like, oh man, it's awesome. I loved it. I had a blast.
Hmm.
Animation is just gorgeous.
Hmm.
Like the action scene, the fights were so cool. We
Yeah.
we we both talked about this the other day, but there's a montage action sequence through the film set to No Diggity,
Hmm.
and it just it was I had to pause it and like to know I was just talking to no one and I'm just like this is so badass. This is so badass. And I hit play. And and that's another thing like what's cool about there being different turtles for different generations. Think about this one is that it's a throwback to people like my age and older, late 30s,
Yeah.
40s, uh hence the music. And now this new generation of kids are being introduced to this whole other era of music, you
Hmm.
know, which I think is really cool. It's bringing it back. It feels very old school, and I don't know. I'm always down for that, And this
Yeah.
specifically this film, like the soundtrack was so good because it's so many like what now we would consider classic hip hop hits, you know and I'm like, man,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and also just the fact that you get like Ice-T to play your villain, you
yeah,
know? And it's
yeah.
like that, yeah, that's gotta be some kind of that's a
And
throwback for sure too.
and it is kind of yeah to like, the 80s and 90s.
Hmm.
It's just I love how they tackle it as like an origin story, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the montage of where they're training, where they're all learning how to fight. It's
Yeah.
so good. And they're
It's like,
playing what is it? Take It to the Limit? Is that
yeah.
what the song's
I
called?
I yeah, I think so.
Oh god, it's so good. But yeah, so I'm still thinking about the music. I forgot what else I was gonna say. Um, I was gonna say the way like it very much feels like a superhero movie, but fresh, like not formulaic. So
Hmm.
that's cool. But also, I love how New York it feels.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in the music and in just the art and the style. And then you have like we've seen it several times in Spider-Man, but where in the climax, New York comes to save the day.
Yeah.
It's the people who stand up. And I'm like, that was the coolest scene, dude. I got so emotional. No spoilers, but the final climax, it pulls in all the characters into this big battle. And
Hmm.
it was so cool to see Splinter in the way they portrayed him in this one is very a very realistic kind of overbearing parent,
Yeah.
but it's done in a very like understanding way. Like you get to see Splinter's backstory, and you're like, I get why he is the way he is, and he's played by Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know, just great movie, very New York, very Turtles. I loved it. Onto something that doesn't feel like New York at all.
And that
Dark.
isn't like as lighthearted at all.
No, but man, what a hell of an episode. We're talking about Dark, season 1, episode 5, Truths.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Truths.
Okay.
The mics are good mics, but it's kind of hard to pick up some certain enunciation. So I'm really trying to say truths.
Oh
It's
yeah,
that
yeah.
th that I'm losing in the mic.
Mhm.
Truths. Anyway, Marta's stuck in a love triangle. The stranger mails Jonas sci-fi stuff, and Hannah is crazy, was crazy, and has always been crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
Sam. This opposite was like or this episode was like the opposite of last week's, where we said like there's a lot happening, but like none of the plot was really moving forward.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This episode, so much happened and so much plot moved forward.
Yeah, yeah.
Like so many storylines going on in this one. I think like so far this was the best episode, but also the most intricate. Also, the first episode where we've had both timelines like
Mm-hmm.
equal. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts? What?
My brain was fried.
Yeah.
By the end of it, I was just like, wow,
Do you
wow.
just want to
What?
jump into the end of it?
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, God, I don't even know how to like say it and it just like make any sort of sense at all. But Mikkel, who has for since the start of the series, since episode one, has been thrown back in time to the 80s. Turns out he never leaves the 80s and lives out his days in Winden, changes his name to Michael, marries Hannah. Well, one gets taken in by the nurse, marries Hannah, eventually is the father of Jonas, and then hangs himself,
Mm-hmm.
kickstarting this whole entire crazy story.
Mm-hmm.
I yeah, I was just yeah,
Okay, so here's
I was
my
blown
question.
away. Yeah.
Did you figure it out before the end, before Jonas read the letter?
No.
Okay. See, I had the scene where I figured it out and it just broke my heart was the scene where he's talking to Hannah, or before he talks to Hannah at the hospital, because he's opening a pack like a present, and it's the book. And it's
Mm-hmm.
that book that the nurse has in the future. In the beginning, she's looking at it. I think it says I'm not alone or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
She has the book and she's looking at it. Well, that's the book he's given in the hospital. I'm like, oh, and that's kind of when I put the pieces together, like, oh, wait. The nurse just said she doesn't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh God, he has the book. And that's when I kind of figured it out. Like, is he Michael?
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want it to be true. But I'm glad they addressed it, because I'm like, that's something
Mm-hmm.
they could have drug on. You know, if this was lost, we wouldn't find that out to the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they dropped those hints and then they revealed it at the end, like he was Michael. He was the father all along. And like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
jeez. Which is just heartbreaking because we've spent the last 4 episodes like really empathizing with Mikhail, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to just rooting for him. And now we're like,
Mm-hmm.
we know how his story ends.
Kat,
Mm-hmm.
for you new listeners, is my wife. She was very staunchly against starting a new series. She was
Uh-huh.
like, "You put it on, like I'm going to do my own thing." Blah blah blah. Like, so she did that with like the first 2 episodes, and then like kind of like explained afterwards, kind of like how you used to do with episodes of Lost. She was like,
Yeah,
"What?
yeah.
What
And then
happened?"
this
And I was
happened,
like,
and
"This
then
happened, and
this.
this happened. Oh, but before that happened, this happened."
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I ended up doing that for the first 2 episodes, and then I just had them on, and she would be in the room, and she's like doing her own thing. Well, this time she's on the couch with me, we're watching, and because I've already filled her in with stuff, she's like looking up from her phone, and I'm doing, and we're listening to it in German, so like
Mm-hmm.
like it's real hard to like be doing something else if that's not your main
Mm-hmm.
language, if you don't know it. So I'm there like trying to be like and then Kat will look up and she'll be like, wait, what? what did he just say? I was like, oh, and then pause, and then like, okay, so this is so. Needless to say, she's hooked now. Um,
Nice.
but afterwards, we both had a long conversation about how awful it must be to your whole world changes in a night.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the house that you've lived in your whole life, and nobody you know is there. Your key doesn't work. All these things are different, and then to just you have to live out your days like that. And then you get older, and you find some kind of peace, whatever, you get married, you have your own family, but then the people that you first met on your first day in this place start to look like your parents, and then they
Mm-hmm.
start having kids, and then they
Yeah.
have you, and I'm just like,
And I mean,
that's
he already
such
knows
a
that they're the,
trip.
the parents, you know?
Well, he already knows that, but it's like,
Yeah, it's just wild. Like,
there's a difference between knowing and then physically seeing it happen.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
imagining that I maybe we'll get an explanation, maybe there's
Mm-hmm.
another purpose or reason why, he ended up, hanging himself.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think just that alone,
Mm-hmm.
living with that kind of, just living with that sort of information, that's such a mind
Yeah.
trip. I get it.
Exactly. But also, he wrote the note to Jonas
Yeah.
not to read it until after he had gone, Mikhail had gone missing.
Hmm.
So he doesn't try to stop it at all, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, wow. Like, it's just, hmm. Speaking of, and the letter, which the stranger sends to him,
Hmm.
the same letter which Enos, she burned.
Yeah.
So where did this one come from?
I don't know.
Hmm.
And it is significant. It is older. It's
Yeah, yeah.
it's brown, it's worn, all these things. Yeah. Wait a second. Does that mean it's not the real letter?
I don't know.
Man, I have so many questions. I wrote down the questions because I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Okay. So, question one.
uh,
Is German Daryl Dixon Mads?
that was your prediction for like 2 episodes ago.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That
Yeah.
was my prediction. I'm still sticking with that
And
because
he, oh, go ahead.
well, yeah, because we never we don't know. We don't know what happens to Mads.
Right.
We can just infer that okay, if Mikhail went into the caves, and then is and then he gets lost and stuck,
Mm-hmm.
we can infer that that may have happened with Mads,
Mm-hmm.
unless he was taken.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know that yet. As far as we know, there aren't that many missing kids. There's only one missing kids in the past, and that's Mads.
Right.
So this epidemic of missing children is only in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And we know for a fact one of them just got thrown back in time. Uh so there's that. But I also posit the question, is German Daryl Dixon future Jonas?
That's interesting too.
Because he was following Jonas the other day, and he was
Mm-hmm.
following him, making seeing if he went into the cave, checking his watch to tell the time, all this stuff. He even is inside Jonas's house, staring
Mm-hmm.
at him sleep, automatically knows where the map is.
We still don't know what he wrote on it, but
And we
yeah, he
still don't,
knows where the
yeah,
map is.
we still don't know what he wrote on it. And he talked to Jonas this episode,
Yeah.
basically talking about his dad,
Mm-hmm.
Michael, now who we know is Mikhail, uh, and basically just said that yeah, I knew your dad. Um, he saved my life, and I just didn't realize it until much later. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what does that mean? I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
that means, but I just and now I mean, we've already been in the time travel mindset. Now we're in the there are things that happen that are like time locked, you know?
Oh, interesting.
Like
Yeah.
Mikhail is always going to disappear and end up in the past and end up becoming Michael, who is
Hmm.
Jonas's father. Like,
Oh, okay. Well,
you
let's talk
know,
about this though. This concept of time locked. Like, okay, what does this mean that Mikhail was Jonas's father?
hmm
Like, what are the ramifications of that? Because that means, see, and this is some really weird time loop stuff because it's kind of like the whole like there's no beginning, you know?
hmm
Because essentially Jonas was only born because of time travel.
hmm
His mom's normal, but his dad traveled through time.
yeah.
So whatever's going on in Winden caused Mikhail time travel.
hmm
So Jonas is like this weird. I don't know.
Like
I
just like an anomaly kind of,
yeah, it's
you
kind of
know?
like was it the knife or the compass in Lost? Remember, like Richard gives it
Oh,
to Locke.
oh yeah, I thought it was the it's the compass.
It's the compass. He gives it to Locke, and then Locke gives it to Richard in the past.
hmm
And like so, it keeps switching hands, but we never really know where it originates from.
Yeah.
Jonas, we know where it originates from.
hmm
But yeah, so he's like in this weird time loop, which is crazy. Or maybe not him, but like he's the product, the byproduct of this time loop, which
hmm
is wild. Also, let's just get into more of the specifics here. If Mikhail is Jonas's dad, then what about his friends? Because that would mean Mads is his uncle, and Martha is his aunt.
Oh, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting to some Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen territory here,
Oof. Yeah.
especially after this
Like,
episode where
oh.
they finally kiss. Like it's this
Uh-huh.
whole love triangle between him, her, and Bartosh. But like, man, Jonas and Martha are so in love. You
hmm
know, I'm like, oh,
hmm
damn.
No, I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, man. So what this episode did is kind of what episode 3 did. We had the first two episodes, and in episode 3 we get sent back to the 80s, and it kind of recontextualizes everything we've seen so far.
hmm
That's what this twist does. Finding out that Mikhail is Jonas's dad. Finding out that Mikhail never makes it back from the past.
Yeah.
This recontextualizes the whole show because now we're like, okay, what about these relationships? You know,
hmm
what's going to happen there? What about the investigation? This show has been very investigation heavy.
Yeah.
But now that we as an audience know they're never going to find him, how is the show itself going to tackle that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without it just feeling like, man, this isn't going to go anywhere, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Speaking of the investigation, we know what Noah looks like.
Oh, yes. There's oh god, there's so much to talk about. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because what's her name? Elizabeth. She describes Noah
In very good detail,
in
I must
very
say.
yeah.
Because that sketch looked perfect.
Yeah, I was like, wow, he really does look like him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then where does Noah freaking show up? He shows up in the past,
We
in
see
the
him in the past.
80s.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we know about him, Matthew? He's a
Priest.
freaking
Of
priest.
course, the
Of
priest is going to be the bad
course.
guy.
Oh
Ah.
man. And it's like this his whole conversation with Mikhail was just
Oh,
scary.
oh
It's
yeah.
horrifying,
Yeah, that was interesting.
you know?
I'm like, huh. There, he's kind of debating with this kid whether or not God exists. I'm like, wow, that's interesting.
And then turns out, evidently, he was Eric's dealer, and Bartosz has Eric's phone and gets contacted by Noah, and he meets Noah on the freaking dark bridge in the
Contacts
middle of the
him by
night.
name,
Yeah,
Bartosz.
yeah, by name, and you're just like, and he looks the same.
He looks the
like
same.
he hasn't aged a day, which leads me to conclude that he is, for all intents and purposes, the anti-German Daryl Dixon. He is the anti-stranger. Because I feel like
Interesting.
I think are on similar, not similar paths, but they're on paths that have diverged from each other, but utilize the same methods.
So I'm thinking, Noah's either immortal and or vampire, or he's time traveling priest.
Now I don't know how crazy this show gets. Now,
It gets dark.
if you've been hiding the fact that vampires are on the table from me, I'm gonna be upset. I would be upset you didn't tell me to watch it sooner.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I don't know. He's creepy. I don't like it. I don't like creepy priests.
Yeah. Exactly. But speaking of which, like what you said, they were kind of on parallel paths. Also interesting, because Stranger mails the package to Jonas, goes to talk to Jonas, and then goes into the caves. And at the very, very end of the episode, he shows up in the clockmaker's shop, which we don't know where or when that is. But we know he leaves the caves and it looks different. It kind of looked like the 80s because there was more trees. But that's like our only context clues. But then he goes to talk to the clockmaker about time. And that's it. Like, oh, geez, okay.
And I'm pretty sure that clockmaker is the same person who makes the machine.
It looked like the same because the like the little office area where he was working, it looked the same, and he had the crazy like white hair, So,
and I think that's also the same person from like the second or third episode or whatever, who we saw on that like educational program talking about time, and relativity and all that. So,
speaking of time and relativity, 2-part scene, Yorick is talking to Charlotte, and he's saying the whole reason he became a cop was because after Mads disappeared, they made every single mistake in the book, and he wanted to be different. He said the chief was a drunken
moron.
There's another word he used that was really good. I was like, ooh, that's a good word. He's like, but now
he said it was like an incompetent drunken moron.
Okay. Yeah, he's like, now he says, I'm him. I'm that guy. He's like, 33 years later, my kid's missing. We can't find him.
I'm cheating on my wife.
I'm cheating on my wife. I can't do anything. I'm that guy now. And Charlotte explains the 33-year cycle, the lunar solar cycle, which I thought was so cool. I was like, that's what it is. That 33 years, it keeps popping up in the show over and over. But that's when the sun and moon both hit the exact same spot in the rotation, and then the cycle begins again, because it's never exactly the same. It's only that way like every 33 years. Because the whole thing, and she goes into in detail too, like our calendars are wrong. There's not actually 365 days a year. But it's really 33 years is when everything resets. I was like, wow, that's nuts. I'm like, okay. And she's like, I feel like everything's happening again. Oh, she says, back then, 33 years ago, I had this feeling that something was wrong with Wyndon. I'm starting to get that feeling again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, something strange is afoot at Wyndon, man. So much. Charlotte kind of confronts Peter, and she straight up says, like, look, where were you the night Mikhail disappeared? And he's like, oh, I was at the office again. And she shows him the picture on the road. No, you weren't. And she tells him, just look me in the eyes and tell me you have nothing to do with that missing boy. And Peter doesn't do it. He looks her in the eyes and he says, you're nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one thing to say, like, hey, like last week or whenever, like, if, like, this is your chance, tell me whatever you want to tell me. But to actively say, look me in the eyes and tell me you have nothing to do with these children disappearing. And he can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
mm-hmm.
And she looks like a wreck after that. I'm like, she knows he's somehow involved. Moral of the story, guys. If your wife gives you an opportunity to come clean, take the damn opportunity, because it happens later with Yorick as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Katerina says, I'll only ask you this once. Are you cheating on me? And he says, why would you get an idea like that? I wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
At least Peter didn't say no. He just sidestepped the question. Yorick straight up lying. He's like, nope.
Straight up lied. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But
I'm
it's
just
hard.
like,
yeah. And it's hard to empathize with him because, like, dude, you did this to yourself and you continue to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hannah's making things worse. And apparently she always has, ever since she was a kid. I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I guess all the kids have sex in that same room because that's where Yorick hooked up with Katerina, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, like son, like parents,
Father
I don't know.
and mother,
Father and mother, yeah.
I don't know. Weird.
Yeah.
But like, I also feel like, speaking of like this episode recontextualizing everything, I feel like Hannah really messed a lot of things up because, like, what should have been a moment just between Yorick and Katerina as kids, as teenagers, you know, that they consensually agreed upon, that Hannah just happened upon. And obviously she likes Yorick. Like, she creates this entire false narrative and gets the police involved. Like,
the
saying
chief
that,
who
like,
already has it out for Yorick.
Who already has it out for Yorick. And like, yeah, so like this episode ends where teenage Yorick is getting arrested for supposedly raping Katerina. And, you know, I feel like we haven't seen the ramifications of that, but I feel like that's the sort of thing that, like, that, well, I mean, yeah, obviously that's the thing that, like, changes your entire life because you were being falsely accused of this thing. But also I feel like that changes you as the person who made up this entire story. You know, like, this is the links you will go to get the thing that you want or the person that you want. So yeah, and I feel like that is kind of setting up something that Hannah is gonna do, because Hannah came to their house in the rain under the pretense of, like, oh, well, you don't, it's such a crazy time and I made you food because I didn't think you'd want to cook, and then just kind of hangs out and doesn't asks how the kids are, and then asks how Yorick is. Doesn't ask how Katerina feels at all. And then, yeah, and the fact that Yorick is, like, calls it off, says, no, don't do this anymore. Don't contact me. Don't come to our house again. And that doesn't scare Hannah at all.
Hannah says something to the fact, like don't think I'm going to let you go so easily, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
And I'm like, oh.
But Katerina, man, she figured it out. When she goes back at the end, she thanks Hannah and hugs her, and she takes, like, a good long whiff, and instantly she turns her head towards Yorick. And she's like, she got sent. She's like, yep.
It's like she knows.
She knows,
She
and you're still
knows.
lying. I'm like, dude,
Uh-huh.
you're a detective. Detect,
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
geez. Man. That's what I'm talking about. There are so many plots and so many little scenes that are all connected to other plots and scenes, and it's all like this web, this weave that's moving together forward, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't know exactly how yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we kind of have like, at least they're setting up a big bad in Noah.
Mm-hmm.
He has something to do with these missing kids.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what. And we've kind of like figured out the whole Mikhail missing and Michael thing. We don't know, like, we don't really understand why that happened or what's going on, but it's like, okay, it feels like that's a big mystery kind of solved. Like, we know Mikhail's not getting back. Okay.
Yeah.
So now what? Oh, also, Martha, she's in a play and it's Ariadne.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, very cool. Very
Mm-hmm.
cool. They mentioned Ariadne's thread last week, or yeah, last episode. Um, yeah, and I think it was a poster on her wall, like in episode 1 or 2 or something like that.
And our stranger, he has a picture of the labyrinth
Yeah.
on his in his hotel room. And I just remember this. I completely forgot about that. But he's talking to Jonas about that.
Mhm.
Says life is a labyrinth and everybody is trying to escape it.
Mhm.
But the point of the labyrinth is that you go deeper into it because when you reach the center, you understand what it all means, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and for me, I'd never thought of it like that. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, no, like that is the point. Like the labyrinth is a test, you
Mhm.
know? And yeah, you can try and you can fight against it, you can rail against it, or you follow it through and you
Mhm.
go into it and you delve deeper, and that's where you find your truth. That's where you find meaning.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, like oh the show.
Yeah.
This show.
Also, I gotta say, casting of the show absolutely phenomenal.
Phenomenal, man.
Young Yorick, you could see him
Mm-hmm.
growing up into Yorick. Same thing with Enos.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just so like, I didn't look it up, but the casting director for the show passed away shortly after the series ended.
Oh.
I'll try and get her name next episode. But like, just the casting in this is so brilliant
Mm-hmm.
because you believe you're looking at the same person 33 years apart, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
man. Oh, okay. Quick note. Yeah, Noah is the bad guy because when he pulls up in his car has suicide doors. That's how you know he's the bad guy. I'm like, yeah, only bad guys have that, you know?
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Uh yeah, we don't know what Noah and Bartosz talked about. We'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
So the stranger sent Jonas a package. The most important thing was the letter
Mm-hmm.
from his father. It's such a good scene because you hear his dad reading it, and you just
Yeah.
see Jonas like crying. The actor who plays Jonas is Lewis Hoffman, who
Okay.
is also like one of the leads in geez, what movie? I just saw the trailer today. Um, Something we cannot see. All the light we cannot see.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Based off the book, right? That's what it's called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All the light we cannot see.
Yeah, and yeah, he's straight up one of the main people. I'm like,
Oh,
cool.
rad.
So that's cool to see him. Getting this work.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's another dark actor in that trailer who we haven't seen in the show yet. So I'm like, oh, interesting.
Ooh, interesting.
Um,
Somebody watched Dark and used it as their casting.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, that's kind of how I felt about Dracula Untold, because there's like 3 or 4 Game of Thrones actors in that movie, and I'm like, you guys just
Oh,
watch Game
really?
of Thrones. Yeah, the guy who plays Thoros, the kid who plays Rickon Stark,
Hmm.
and then yeah, Charles
What year was
Dance
that
is in
movie?
it. It was like 2014 or
Oh,
something.
so it was like early Game of
2014,
Thrones.
2015. Yeah.
When did Game of Thrones start? It's like 2013, right? Or 2012?
Sure. Let's go with that. It came out
I think it
2011.
was 2011. I was gonna say I was still in college. I'm like, okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, yeah, man, nuts. Okay, so also in the package was what looked like a Geiger counter, like radiation,
Yeah.
right? A radiation thing.
Yeah, some kind of counter. Yeah, potentially radiation.
Mhm.
And a really cool flashlight.
Yeah, I was like, what is like a flashlight from the future? Like it's
Hmm.
just like a orb you hold. I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. And there's no switch or anything. Like Jonas just like rubs his hand on the front and it turns on and off. I'm like,
Hmm.
well, that's cool.
Yeah, that's real
Uh
cool.
yeah.
Okay, music in this episode, the song in towards the end, the giant montage, it's a song called Me and the Devil by Soap and Skin.
Hmm. Heard
Such a
that
good
one.
song, you know,
Yeah.
especially like when they're talking about me and the devil and it's showing both Hannahs from both timelines. That's
Hmm.
like, dude, and young Hannah just seems so cute and innocent, you know, and unassuming. And then you're like, nope, she's the worst one of them all. You're like, don't
Uh-huh.
trust her. Or like, damn it.
Hmm.
All right, man. MVPs. I'm gonna go with the casting director.
Okay. I think I'll second that one with you as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so weird that like wait, I guess it's not that weird, but I feel like it was so much easier in Lost to like just be like, oh yeah, this character for sure. Like they're my MVP, they're like this. And it's like
Yeah.
I feel like we've only had that once this, these 5
Well,
episodes cuz
this really is an ensemble show. Like the
yeah.
way it definition is. Lost is an ensemble show, but like each episode focuses usually on one main character.
Yeah.
But even then, like you have your leads in Lost, and then you have
Yeah.
like the supporting characters, you know,
Yeah.
which unfortunately is like Sun and Jin, which Sun should be one of the leads, you know, she's
Mhm.
so good.
Mhm.
Um, and then you have like the even further supporting like Bernard and Rose, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Whereas this show,
And
it's it.
Froger. Yeah.
Oh yeah, screw that guy. This show's like truly an ensemble where like it really doesn't like Jonas could be a lead, Yorick could be a lead, but
Mhm.
even then, like we're only 5 episodes in, but we already have episodes where like they're not in or other main characters aren't, you know? We
Yeah.
had a whole episode where none of that main cast is in it.
Yeah.
So, and then if you're looking at both timelines, like we have two full casts to keep track of. It's really interesting. Look at the kids, like the teenagers, they build this whole show as kind of like this German Stranger Things. We don't see a lot of the teenagers outside of episode 1.
Mhm.
This is like,
This was like the first time we saw like really saw well, no, because we saw Magnus last
last
episode.
week, yeah,
Yeah,
him and
yeah,
Francesca, but they're nowhere to be found this time.
yeah.
But then like Marta, Bartosh, we've barely seen them since episode 1,
Hmm.
you know? So it's like that's interesting. It's kind of cool just as a show, you know, that you have characters who come and go, you know. We've already talked about Yorick's dad. He's barely in the show, but when he's in it, he's up to something, you know? Like
Yeah,
he's stealing the screen. You're like, what is going on with this guy?
yeah.
And the fact that like something's going on with Peter, but even though he's pretty much been in the show since the start, uh, it's still very limited screen time. But he's has something major going on.
Yeah,
Like I think that's cool. That's what a real ensemble is.
yeah.
So like once the show's over, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this was the lead, you know,
Hmm.
or that was the lead, whoever you're talking about, you know.
I don't know.
Predictions. You had a lot of questions. What about predictions? You did double down on okay, let me see the predictions for today. You mentioned German Daryl, being Mads, or even possibly being Jonas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I did I had another theory,
Mm-hmm.
or I guess it's like a question, but essentially, so Mikhail has been here, or Mikhail has been here, time displaced for decades. Is he the only one?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question.
You
I don't
know,
know.
because we know like the caves seem accessible. Like, you know,
Yeah.
there's not like a bunch of like do not enter signs, turn back now, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of just there. It's kind of just open,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And again, because we don't see how Mikhail goes to the past.
Yeah.
We see him running through the woods, and the next time we see him, the next episode, he's walking out of the caves.
See, now that's interesting to me. I wonder if there's like a hole, like because remember in the third episode when we go to the past,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just that giant,
He just ran
cavernous
into the hole. Yeah.
hole in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I wonder if that could be a thing too. Like there's some sort of gap or hole somewhere,
Yeah.
and he just took a wrong step and went
Mm-hmm.
down.
What was that
And
in the chapter in uh Starless Sky Sea Starless Sea?
Starless Sea.
Yeah, where the little girl's just wandering through the woods and she finds a door lying down,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole thing is just about like, oh, should she open it? Can she? Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she does, and who knows where it takes her?
Mm-hmm.
And like that's crazy. It's just this random door lying down on the floor, discarded in the middle of the forest, and she steps through it.
Hey man, we've talked about that, and I mean like
Doorways are
there's
doorways to other worlds.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, there's there are whole, like beliefs about like, like, hey, you see a fairy ring, you don't step in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, yeah, don't do that. Or you see like some like I know there are some where it's like not just like rings in the ground, but it's like the way trees shape, and the
Mm-hmm.
trees like shape and form, and it looks sort of like an archway,
Mm.
but it's in a spot where like it shouldn't be, and so you're just like, nope, don't go through
Yeah.
that door. That's
Don't.
that's not a door for you.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't go up the
uh,
steps in Appalachian Mountains.
you see a set of stairs, a set of steps in the Appalachian Mountains. You go the other way.
Mm-hmm.
You keep walking. You turn back. Just don't go. Just don't go.
Yeah, man.
Okay, don't
I
do it.
mean, like that's some really creepy stuff. And then there's also like the Mandala effect, where it's just like this. This is silly, but this can't be real, right? Right? You know, like I'm from a world where you watched Miami Vice, the movie. We've talked about this.
I think you've just told me about the Miami Vice movie so much that like over the years it seeped into my brain.
I don't
I think
know.
that's what's happened.
I don't know. I just hope my family from that world is okay. I hope there's another me like replaced me and they're just not like mourning my loss.
Oh
That's all I can
God,
hope for.
that's horrible. That's awful.
Like theoretically, I would have had to replace the Matt in this world.
Mm, yeah,
I hope I'm nicer. So,
yeah, you're all right.
yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll have all our answers. I messed it up again.
Question
We're
next
gonna have
time.
all our answers questioned next week. I keep messing that up. I think it's meant to be.
I think so.
In my world, that's how we say it. So next week we're talking about season 1, episode 6. This is Latin, so forgive me.
Okay.
Sigmundus Cretus est. I believe that's how you say it.
Okay.
Yorick looks to the past for answers and dredges up disturbing family secrets. Meanwhile, armed with new tools, Jonas probes the cave's murky depths.
Ooh,
Awesome.
I like it. See, the thing with Latin is if you sound it out, you're kind of on it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
well,
why
there
you,
you go.
yeah, yeah.
I
But if
know
you're
Latin.
reading it from a book, don't do it.
Oh God, yeah, you're never supposed to read it out loud. That's how the Mummy
Hmm.
started.
That's how the Evil Dead starts.
There
That's
you go.
how Cabin in the Woods
That's
starts.
how like all the bad stuff happened.
Yeah,
Just say
just
it to
don't
yourself.
just say it to yourself. Exactly.
Hmm.
Or if you know enough, if you're like, oh yeah, I took Latin in, high school,
Translate it. Say it
translate
in
it and then
English.
say it in English because
Yeah.
nothing's gonna crawl out of the depths of hell because you said something in English.
Yeah. Well, you never know. You never
Hey,
know.
I mean true, but
Yeah. It's all about the
no.
intent behind the words. Well, not really, because most
Not
of these people
really.
say it by accident. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I didn't intend to like, do the thing and then it's just like,
hmm
oh yeah, it just means I'm calling out to the forces to come rise
hmm
again. Okay.
welcome
Weird.
to the paradise of pain. Oh God.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
geez. Oh, that's a puzzle box situation. That's completely
Wow, and
different.
I love
Don't
puzzles.
don't solve puzzles. Just don't do
Just
it.
no
No,
puzzle. I
no
got
puzzle.
this one for $4.99 at Target. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
You'll forever be stuck in Target.
Mm-hmm. It's just that's how they get their employees.
Yeah, yeah, they're just people who've been stuck there in a
Uh-huh.
time loop the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
They just relive the same day over and over. That's why they look so tired and sick of your crap.
Oh God. I mean, I
Yeah,
would be too if I was stuck in Target all day.
I know. Having to fight off the grown men trying to steal Pokemon cards or
Or the
fight.
grown or
Oh,
the grown men making
okay.
like
Can
weird
we
like
talk about this to
political
end the
rap music
episode?
videos. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about this to end the episode. Pokemon has entered a collaboration with the Van Gogh Museum.
What?
Yeah. So in their museum, they have paintings in the style of Vincent Van Gogh, but it's Pokemon. So there's like the sunflowers, and it's like this little sunflower Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one of like Van Gogh's like bedroom with the bed,
Yeah.
Snorlax is on it upside down. And then in Vincent Van Gogh's self-portrait, it's Pikachu with the little hat.
Huh.
Awesome, I
Okay.
say. Awesome. Knock
Okay.
yourself out.
Yeah.
Well, they have merch that you can
Okay.
buy off the website, but I think most of it, or like the first wave, was just in the museums. I think
Yeah.
one or two
That's usually
museums.
how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. One or two museums, they were flooded with scalpers, like physically fighting each other for merch.
Oh. Okay. See, I saw a video, but it didn't have that context in it. It just
Yeah.
said that there were scalpers at the Van Gogh Museum. So I didn't understand the
Oh my
context.
god. One, just
Wow.
Google Pokemon Van Gogh and you'll just see how awesome it looks. Like I want the self-portrait of Pikachu. Like it's so cool. Oh, and they even have the little plushie of him. It's so
Mm.
cute. I want it. But you got to pay like $200 for it on eBay now.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah.
like, oh. And the
No
Pokemon
thanks.
company officially apologized, and they're like, "Hey, we're sorry. We didn't know what." It's like that's a bunch of crap. You see, this happens at Target every time they get new cards. Like, why
Mhm.
did you think this wouldn't happen at the Van Gogh Museum?
I, you know,
I understand if the museum didn't see it coming because they don't
yeah,
usually have to deal with that. But
yeah,
Pokemon as a company should know, like, their product makes money both legally and illegally. Like, they should know
yeah,
this.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like that's just a thing that like I think a lot of forms of entertainment, I think those industries need to start looking at a lot closer.
Yeah.
Because I saw a video, it was some concert. I don't remember who, but it was, like the seats, where or like where you can stand and all
Mm-hmm.
that. It was like a pretty big group,
Mm-hmm.
but there was hardly anybody there. There was
Hmm.
hardly anybody like standing the thing, and it's like, well, yeah, because scalpers are buying all these tickets and then doubling the price,
Oh,
and nobody
yeah.
can afford that.
Yeah.
So then they just end up with all these tickets, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
There's got to be a way to
and
police that, you know?
yeah, yeah, like only one or two per customer or something. But what's gonna be crazy is that so these scalpers, are throwing elbows at each other to get these Pokemon prints. Those prints are gonna be worthless once they do a second printing.
Well, I mean, they don't really
Like,
care about that because they just want to get it sold. Like
well,
they
yeah, but
hours after the museum fights, they were already selling it on eBay,
yeah,
and they make money. That's why there's so many scalpers in the world because it works.
yeah,
Like you got to have your Pokemon people scouring eBay. Like you'll find all your scalpers and the ones who are jacking up the price. There should be some way to go after them,
yeah.
but I don't know how that works legally. Like because they
Yeah,
do purchase it.
that's some. That's yeah, yeah. And I think that's the thing too. It's like they are doing like they are purchasing it legally.
Yeah,
What they're doing with it in turn is just,
just
that's where the
morally.
problem lies.
Yeah.
So then it's like, yeah, like, because then what I fear is like policing that you real fast can turn into like a Pinkerton situation, like with that
Mhm.
guy who got the magic cards early and didn't
Yeah.
realize it, and then they sing these freaking
Yeah.
anti-union busters, these assholes, after this guy, and
Mhm.
he's innocent. He just innocently got the thing by accident.
Mhm.
You
I'm
know?
just like so this is going off a whole different topic, but I'm just like so shocked. Like we're this far into the era of the internet. We don't have like some kind of online law enforcement. Like that just kind of baffles me. Now I know the different law enforcements, different agencies, they use it for different reasons. They
Hmm.
have different people, monitoring, the dark internet, the dark web, and all that stuff. Like
Hmm.
there is a presence out there, but it's just so surprising how like with all the money that's being made on the internet, no one has found a way to like I don't know
Police
police it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. I think it is kind of, I mean, it's kind of the thing that, like sort of tangentially related, with what WGA and SAG-AFTRA, are dealing with streamers. You
Yeah.
know, there is no or there were no policies put in place because it's such a different market than what everybody was used to. And so
Hmm.
it's kind of like the Wild West, like, hey, like
Yeah.
we're not under the same regulations, so we can do whatever we want. And it's like, and it's so the internet is so amorphous because it's constantly changing, and there are constant ways of scamming people, or doing
Yeah,
like different things, like
that's not
and
going to
that
change.
yeah, that's not going to change. But yeah, it's like that's you know I think it's just hard. The nature
Yeah.
of the crime
Look,
changes so
if you
much.
put 5 seconds of a Beatles song on your YouTube video, you're going to get a cease and desist letter from the music industry.
Yeah.
If it's that easy for the music industry to come after you on YouTube, there's got to be some way. Now, granted, I don't know if that's something we actually want,
Mm.
someone
Yeah.
enforcing internet laws. Uh, but I'm just kind of surprised it hasn't happened yet, especially with the music industry stuff, because there's so many like streamers and stuff who've lost their channel, they've lost their content because of like using a clip. They're like, "Whoops, my bad." That's why it's so. Now we're starting to see video games come out that are streamer safe, or they have a streamer safe setting. So when
Yeah.
you play Fortnite on streamer mode, it doesn't play copyrighted music when you're driving around in the vehicle.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's smart.
That's smart.
That's
Yeah.
clever. Cyberpunk, streamer safe. I think it turns off the copyrighted music and it turns off the nudity filter. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how we ended up talking about it. All because of Van Gogh Pikachu, who I
Hmm.
gotta say, he's the cutest, man. So guys, if you're wondering what you can get me for Christmas, get me the Van Gogh Pikachu plushie. It's like
now
$200.
now I'm just thinking of the context of this.
Mm-hmm.
Van Gogh has the hat. This is also the picture where he has the wrapping around his ear because his
No,
ear is cut off.
no, that they didn't go that in detail. He still has both
Okay.
ears. Yeah,
I was gonna say, I was like, how in depth are we doing this? Because
I know,
that's
right?
horrific implications. Oh boy. Oh jeez.
Oh man.
Don't do that to Pikachu. Don't make horror movies about Winnie the Pooh. Don't make weird stuff with Pikachu. That's
Yeah.
all I ask.
Yeah, exactly. So
Don't do weird stuff.
guys, let us know the weird stuff you're into. But also let us know what you thought of this episode. And if you buy any of the Pokemon Van Gogh collection, send us pics because I want to see it.
Yeah, yeah. Show us your setup.
Yeah.
Show us your art wall, you know?
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be cool.
If you're a scalper, scalp me something.
No, no.
Hit us up on the socials, hashtag Lost Legacies. Let us know what's up with you, what's going on. Send us pics of your Pokemon. And I'm on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Until next time, gotta catch 'em all.
Gotta catch them all.